Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks Workshop. It is Shop Talk number 129. And I think we've got a good shop talk for you this morning. And the first thing I'm going to mention is get your pencils and papers out and get them ready, because I'm going to give you some information in a minute, and you might want to write it down in case you're interested in winning a Jesse Burge guitar. I'm going to give you an email address that you can email to Jesse and buy a raffle ticket. He is raffling off one of his handmade guitars. He's donated it to a bluegrass organization, and it's a fundraiser type thing. So, anyway, I'll tell you all about that in a minute. I'm just preparing you so that you'll be ready when I tell you. Get your pencils and paper ready in case you're interested in winning this thing. The raffle tickets are, I think they're $5 and $20, $5 each, or 5 for $20, something like that. So that's just food for thought for down in a few minutes when I tell you all about it. I think we're going to start off with the photograph of the pond this morning. It's a before and after, again, just like we've been doing in the daily vlogs. So on the left is right after I finished doing all the grading. That's what the pond level was. And on the right, you can see it's coming up about a ½ inch every day. And so it's come up quite a bit. And anyway, it's probably going to be another week before I put the pipe in. I'm wanting to see, the water level and know where it's going to go to. I'm trying to raise the whole level of the pond by about a foot, roughly. It was already about 11 feet deep, so it'll be about 12 feet deep when we're done. So anyway, that's the name of that tune. If you watched the video of the three female spelunkers going in the cave, you'll remember that a follow-up video or a follow-up in one of my vlogs was that I was telling you about the clay that they dug out of the cave and that they purified, and then my wife made a pinch pot out of it, and we were letting it dry. It took a long time for it to dry, but it appears to be pretty dry now, so I thought I'd just show you the before and after. It's not the before. Just show you what it looks like now. And so you can see it's pretty dry now, and it has not cracked. So I'm thinking that clay is probably the real deal. It did not crack at all, and it dried out. It's pretty dry now. That's not been fired or anything. It just dried naturally. But it looks pretty good, really. Just a quick pinch pot. That's what the pottery person said to do, just to test the clay to make sure it's good clay. And it looks pretty good to me. But I don't know much about clay. But anyway, it does have a real dark color to it, which I think is just kind of indicative of what comes out of that cave. And then let's see. I don't have a whole lot to show you, so we're going to get right into questions and answers here in just a minute. But I want to show you what the horse trailer and truck look like after years of struggle. So anyway, those of you who've been watching a long time know I've been working on that horse trailer a long time. I try to give you the short version of the story. An old lady friend of my wife's, she had used that horse trailer to haul her mule around, and she went on trail rides with her mule all the time. And the trailer had gotten in very, very bad state. It was really rusted. I welded hole after hole after hole shut. The frame itself, the axles were literally falling off. I am not exaggerating. I rebuilt all that. Why I did it, I'm not even exactly sure. I guess I just hate to see stuff get scrapped. And anyway, it's in pretty darn good shape now. It doesn't look the best. It still looks kind of like an old trailer, but at least an old trailer that's been well cared for now. So, and then that's Granny's truck there. Granny drives one of the hottest trucks around. I think the guys at the car dealership were surprised when my wife said, "Yeah, that's the one I want right there." Kind of a sporty looking truck, but anyway, that's her truck. That's the one she drives. Of course, she's got my car right now down in Florida with the granddaughters. I think they're starting on their way back tomorrow. So anyway, I'm glad the horse trailer thing is behind me. Holy mackerel. And yeah, eventually I'll be putting a video out, I think. Maybe it might just be kind of like highlights of the build, because, yeah, if I tried to show a detail of the build, it'd be about a 5-parter, and it'd be an hour each part, and maybe longer than that. Okay, so I told you I was going to give you the details on Jesse's raffle on his guitar. Now, if you don't know, Jesse Burge is the fellow that built the guitar for Cash. And if you still don't know, Cash is my 10-year-old student, and he played the guitar on my yesterday's vlog. You can go back and look at yesterday's vlog, and Cash was picking and singing and playing that guitar. It's a good sounding guitar. Cash loves his Jesse Burge guitar. So anyway, if you're interested in winning a Jesse Burge guitar, I'm going to give you the details here right now. I would have put it on the screen and all that if I'd have had time, but I just saw this just before we went live, 2 minutes before we went live. So I'm just going to read the text to you here. It's a fairly long text. It says, "Jerry, I have built a really nice guitar and donated it to the Magnolia State Bluegrass Association to be raffled off. The MSBA, as it is called, was founded in 1975, and I am a charter member. I am now president of the board. I have been on the board for 3 or 4 times. Back, sides, neck are Honduran mahogany. Top is 2,000-year-old reclaimed spruce. The raffle tickets are $5 a piece, or 5 for $20. To purchase a raffle ticket, email to this address." Don't bother emailing me. It won't do you any good. The email is, write it down, MSBAMUSIC. So MSBA music at gmail.com. So one more time, MSBA music at gmail.com. And let's see here. So anyway, that'll get the ball rolling. He's got the PayPal thing here too. I guess I'll give you that, and if you are really up on PayPal, you'll probably know how to use this. If not, you'll probably still just have to start it with the email anyway. But the PayPal link for sending your money is http:/// those 2 of those, paypal.me.msbamusic. And anyway, that's the PayPal thing. If you would prefer to mail a check, you can mail your check to MSBA P.O. Box 5607, Brandon, Mississippi 39047. One more time on the address is MSBA P.O. Box 5607, Brandon, Mississippi 39047. And let's see. It says the winner will be announced at our spring show. So it's going to be a while. I will send you some pictures of the guitar, and he's got them here. And I'm just going to hold it up. I know this isn't very good, but at least you can see something here. There's a picture of the guitar there. Let me see if it'll... There's a picture of the back. And there's another one. Whoops. I guess that's it. So there it is again, one more time. Okay. That's all she wrote on that. Good luck with that, Jesse. I know Cash really likes his Jesse Burge guitar. And there's even a number of questions and comments today that we're going to cover about Cash and the guitar and a few different things. So we'll get into that in just a moment on the questions and answers. Let me just look at who was first to sign in. After we went live, it looks like it was Matthew Caffel. Let's see. And then I see Gary Smythe from the UK, Carolyn Fike from South Carolina, Lee Duffield, and D.E. That's D, 2 small E's, and then a large E. Anyway, we have 128 viewers. That's pretty good for early on like this. We're starting to get a few questions in those comments. If you're going to post a question for today and you want me to address it, start your question with a few question marks, like 3 question marks at the beginning, and then that way I'll know it's something you want me to address here this morning. It looks like Gary Smythe had one before we actually went live, probably while he was waiting there, and I'll go ahead and look at that one right now. Good afternoon from me here in UK. My question is simple. Does your drone work? Because mine does not. Oh, I think that was from a day or two ago. So I don't know. I'm not sure about those questions that pop up in the everything that pops up above that banner. I know from below the banner it's live today, but I really don't know. Anyway, moving on. Let's get into the questions and answers that were from yesterday's video. The first one here, some of these are just more or less comments, but we're going to cover a few of them because a few of them will invoke a little bit of commentary from me. So the first one is from Tom My Art Strong. That's the username. Good job, Cash. Jerry wondering if his new guitar is a bit big for him at his age, or is that not an issue? Well, yeah, it's an issue. The guitar that he has is not I don't think it's a full-size Dreadnought, I don't think, but I could be wrong on that. But, Cash is able to handle it okay. He had a guitar pretty similar size, and it seems to be okay. You can go too big on a guitar. There's no question about it. So it is something you should think about. But it looks like he can reach everything okay, and he seems to be able to play it okay. So that's, I don't think, an issue in this particular case, but it is something you should think about when you're teaching a young person. So it's a good thought. Hoopa Zero, Hoopa, and then zero spelled out Zero is the username. I am not a person to flatter or generally even bother to compliment, but that boy's singing is something I can easily imagine being dubbed over a film or an advert. It's very evocative. The fact it isn't metronome perfect makes it even better. Well, he's doing pretty well. I wouldn't call it metronome perfect, but he's pretty close now, and getting better. And yeah, he's still having a little bit of trouble switching between the modes, which would be the lead picking, back to the strumming, to the singing, and all that. So it's a bit much. The other thing that Cash will need to work on is he's very, very dependent on the teacher, on the instructor at this point. And I'm big on creating independent students. So he hasn't quite got that message yet, but he's going to real soon. I have a way of putting that message across, and he's gonna think some things have fallen apart here in a minute. No, I like to push them out on their own and make them, if you stop and think about anything that you learn, you have to stretch your boundaries or you'll never learn anything. You'll never get any better. If you stay within your boundaries, then you're bound. You're going to stay in that little box the rest of your life unless you stretch those boundaries. You have to stretch them in order to grow, in order to improve, in order to get better. And I've been pushing him really hard. In fact, I think if some of you saw some of the lessons, you'd say, hey, I think you're being a little too hard on him. I think you're pushing him a little too much. And maybe I am. Maybe I am. But I've done it with countless students the exact same way, and the results have just been absolutely wonderful. So I kind of stick to it based on, my past. And I don't think I push any of them beyond their capabilities. In fact, I think I help them figure out what their capabilities are. A lot of them I don't think, know their capabilities. And Cash is definitely in that boat right now. Cash has no idea what his capabilities are. And he needs to be able to, start learning things on his own. Like he's not going out and finding a song and bringing it to me. I'm pushing all the songs on him at this point. So he needs to start to do that and to start to, put them together on his own. And he's capable of doing that. Anyway, moving on. The next question here is from the username Idea George. Bravo. Yes, I agree. The cutest part was when he was searching for the words. He did this twice, actually. I rewatched it after you pointed it out. You could see his eyes searching differently throughout the song for the words. However, the music seemed almost effortless. No looking down at his hands. This was impressive. There was a close second in cuteness, and that was his smile after completion. Yeah, I agree with that. Third, cuteness has to be the little country voice. Thanks for sharing it. Great job. Yeah, the reason I left that comment in there wasn't to flatter me or him. It was just because you talked about the point there of not looking at his hands. He had a real habit of that. I mean, a real habit of that. In fact, this boy had a lot of habits. And that's another question that comes up here in a minute, too, by the way, is about habits. And I'm real big on breaking habits. Now, that doesn't mean that I, don't have my own habits. I have a lot of bad habits myself. So, but when it comes to, music and trying to improve your music, you need to learn how to break some of your habits. And of course, it's easy to preach it. It's hard to practice it. I'm really bad for that myself. So I impose it on people, but I can't do it. At least I know it, and at least I admit it. Okay, moving on to the next one here. Yeah, he used to look at his hands a lot, by the way, though, and I allowed it when he first started picking for a little bit because, it's hard to get that coordination. But I very much encouraged him to quit doing that, to know where your hands are without looking at them. And he's come a long way on that. So I'm real happy with his progress. It says Richard Cooksey is the next one. Richard Cooksey 1600 is the next username. It says, I made a rosewood pickguard on the guitar I built, and I glued it down with Titebond instead of using double-sided tape. I've been wondering if I made a mistake. Any problems you can think of or anything I need to watch for? I've seen you fix so many with damaged tops from plastic pickguards. It seems like the rosewood glued down would be okay. Thanks for this channel, many hours of instruction and wisdom. I've watched every video at least once and most many times. Highly recommend you. Thank you. Well, thank you, Richard Cooksey 1600 there. Username. Anyway, no, I think you'll be okay. Different woods can, expand and contract at different rates. So there's always a bit of concern. But the reason that the plastics cause the tops to break is, I really believe it. I firmly 100% believe it with my whole soul, is when you get chemicals on those plastics will shrink up and they will get hard. And when they draw up like that, that causes the wood to crack and break. So For those of you who are new and haven't heard my rant on all that, the best thing I can tell you is do not use liquid spray polishes on your instrument at all. Zero, none, don't do it. Throw it away, put it in the trash, and just lose that little bit of money that you spent on that and get rid of it, and you'll be better off. Instead, use some sort of a paste wax to wax your guitars. The Renaissance wax is the wax that I've recommended. And even with the Renaissance wax, I recommend do not put it on the plastic pick guard and any other large plastic pieces as far as that goes. Your binding is usually covered with finish anyway, so it's not usually an issue on your binding. But I think Renaissance wax, of all the waxes, is probably the easiest on your plastics anyway. I think you could probably get away with putting it on your plastic, but I wouldn't. I would not put any chemicals whatsoever on your plastics at all. How do I know that that causes a problem? Well, my best, I mean, I've seen it gazillions of times, and generally my best proof is I'll ask people, I said, what kind of how do you take care of your guitar? What do you use on the finish? And it's almost always the spray polishes on the pick guards that have shrunk up. Every single time I ask the question, that's the answer I get. Not only that, but then one time I had the problem myself. I had a real nice Martin guitar in my shop. This was in the early days. And I really took a lot of care with it and time and cleaned it up, polished it and everything, and I used the spray polish on it. And about, I don't know, a couple of months later, a guy calls me back and says, did you put anything on my pick guard or anything on my guitar that, he says, my pick guard has started shrinking up and curling up. And I said, yeah, I did. I sprayed it with those, liquid, and it was a guitar polish. I mean, it was a spray polish made for guitars. So there you go. So that's my wisdom and proof on that. Don't do it. But back to your question there. Do you think you're going to have a problem by gluing your rosewood down? I'd say you're probably going to be okay, but you never know about something like that because they do expand and contract at different rates sometimes. So that's the best I can tell you. Guy Bros 1200. Hey Jerry, help made a no-no. Oh, help made a no-no. Got a small run of CA glue, turned white, of course. How do I get it off? Okay, well, let me see here. Yeah, I don't have any. Well, I do. I'll just pretend like we're doing the right thing here. Yeah, wouldn't you know, this is a wide one. I'll use this one. Pretend this is a razor blade, a single edge razor blade. I'm using it just because I have it here handy. You would do this like so. And of course it didn't tear nice and smooth. And you would do this like so. And now you see that you have a little tiny space in between the two tapes there. And that little space, believe it or not, is in the air compared to the rest of that tape. So you can take that single edge razor blade now, and you can scrape that glue on your finish. This will protect your finish, the tape. And you can scrape it like so. Now, you might want to start with masking tape because it's thicker. And then once you get it scraped down smooth or fairly close to your surface, then you might want to take another razor blade and put regular cellophane tape on it, which is a little thinner, and then do it again. And scrape it like that. You'll be fine if, kind of keep your razor blade up fairly straight. Now, some people will also curl the edge of the razor blade over a little bit and then use the hook and pull the hook toward you. You can do that too. There's all kinds of options on that. But when you finally get it down as low as you can get it, then, probably your best bet would be, if you're good at this stuff, and this can backfire too. So I'm just going to tell you up front. You might want to start with about a 1200 wet or dry sandpaper, and you can use water if you think you need to. It's okay on most finishes, although you might want to test it again, because like on a French polish type finish, which is the you know me in words. I can't think of the base of that stuff. Let me find it. Shellac. I just can't come up with words sometimes. But a shellac-based finish, water is not necessarily its friend. It will sometimes turn it white and all that. But as long as you've got a nitrocellulose lacquer or some other polyurethane or whatever type of finish, then your water with your sandpaper is fine. So start with like a 1200, then go all the way up to maybe a 2000 or something like that. And then what I would recommend is you take your semi-chrome polish, metal polish, and then polish it out. So that's probably how you're going to have to get rid of it. Start with this, and then just progressively get finer and finer. For those of you who haven't heard my rants on CA glue is wonderful, but boy, you got to be careful with it, because it will run everywhere. It will literally run everywhere. And I mean, it's very quick. My example on that is I had a young guy. He was probably in his 30s. He was in my shop one day, and he saw how I was using the CA glue and how I was fixing problems, dents, cracks, whatever, So he went home and he thought he could do that on his mandolin. Well, a few days later, he brought me the mandolin and says, "Can you fix this?" And he had the CA glue ran everywhere and just made a mess on his finish. So you got to be super careful with CA glue when you use it around your guitar. One of the tricks or tips on that, and I'm just using this as an example, but you hold the CA glue bottle vertical, so the spout's up here. Keep it vertical as long as you can, and sometimes you bring this up and you just tip it very lightly. In other words, don't turn it over like that. You just want to make sure that you're just getting the least little bit out. And if you're really worried about it, pour it into something else, a drop or two into something else, and take a toothpick and apply it with a toothpick. And that's really your safest way to do it if you don't have a big area to cover. So be real careful with CA glue. It's a wonderful thing. The other way to keep it from turning white, he mentioned it turned white. The other way to keep it from turning white, and it works almost every time for me, is you put it on and wait, 10 seconds, then apply your accelerator if you want accelerator. Do not put your accelerator on immediately. It will turn white every time. So there you go. Those are tips. Hope that helps you. The next question is Ken Solo 6793. Hi Jerry, you are so right about perfect practice. I can't begin to tell you how many years it took me to break bad habits due to a lot of imperfect practice sessions. I eventually learned I had to slow everything down so I can learn it perfectly at a very slow pace, and then slowly using a metronome increase the beats per minute. And anyway, he just goes on to talk about that, and I agree with you there. I'll tell you, one of the things I see people do in practice is try to play whatever they're trying to play too fast. And then when they come back, like to me, to show me what they've learned, they're trying to do it too fast. Speed is okay, but quality is better. So I've worked with Cash a lot on that. I mean, he Jimmy Brown, the newsboy, the one he picked and sang yesterday on the video. He tries to do it too fast. He tries to do it too fast, and I keep slowing him down, and I play it along with him at a much more controlled, speed. And, Alison Krauss probably maybe said the best quote I've ever heard on music. And at least I think it was one of the best quotes I've ever heard. And the problem is I can't quote it exactly. I'm just going to paraphrase what she said. And what she said was, it used to be that we would try to play as many notes as possible, and we'd try to play as quick as we could play it and all that. She said, now I've learned that it's much more important to play the right notes and to play them, at a decent pace. And it was some paraphrase of that. So, it's learning to play the right notes and to play it at the proper speed is the better way. And of course, if you can play it really fast and you're doing it to impress and you're good at it, hey, there's nothing wrong with that either. So I'm okay with that too. All right, so moving on. I'm going back and marking these ones I've already done so I don't do them again. The next username is Alonzo Quesada probably. Alonzo Quesada, 1136 is the username. Hi Jerry, hope you and your family are good. I'm starting to learn how to play guitar on my own, watching YouTube videos. Any advice for beginners or online courses, recommendations? Also, how to sing and play at the same time. Well, to some people and beginners especially, it's kind of like patting your head and rubbing your tummy type thing. It's kind of like doing that. You're coordinating a lot of different things at one time. So first thing is be patient with yourself. It's going to take some time. If it was easy, monkeys could do it, and you'd see monkeys doing it everywhere. And they don't play guitar very well. So it's a difficult thing to do. I know this is going to sound incredibly self-serving, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's something I believe in, and I really believe it. Otherwise, I wouldn't say it. And that is, it would be a detour for you, but you will thank me and bless me later if you do it. And that is, you might want to buy yourself a cheap mandolin, take my mandolin course, and purchase my mandolin course and go through it. And you have to stick with it, but it will teach you way more about music in a very short time than you will learn any other way. You will understand the Nashville number system, and the Nashville number system is what makes music make sense. The side benefit is you'll learn how to play a mandolin in addition to your guitar. I'm not saying you need to switch from a guitar to the mandolin. What I'm saying is if you switch over for a temporary period, learn how to play the mandolin, you'll understand the chords and how chords relate to one another. You'll see patterns that you'll never see any other way, and it will help your music make sense. And then when you go back to your guitar, you'll have a lot better base of understanding of music, and it will help you with everything. The mandolin course starts with how to hold a pick all the way to playing incredibly complicated songs. Songs with 12, 13 chords. It's like that, and it'll take you all the way from start to finish. Again, I know it sounds self-serving. I'd give it away if that made sense, but it doesn't make sense. I need an income too. Honestly, I stand by it because I've had so many compliments and so many, emails about, I wished I would have learned this so much sooner, that type of thing. So that's my best recommendation for you. It teaches you in a different way than any other lessons you'll ever get, because my lessons are totally common sense. They're not based on technical stuff. You'll understand it if you're just starting out. It'll make sense to you. Those of you who are already really good at it, you'll start it and you'll have second guesses. But if you go all the way through it, you'll go, oh yeah, I'm kind of glad I did that too. So, even for people that already know music, to some degree. It'll make sense for you. All right, moving on. Let's see here. Ken Solo 6793 says, "Hi Jerry. It looks live. The video lightning has evened out. Lighting, I guess. Yeah, the video lighting has evened out in the foreground, background. Did you discover what the issue was and correct it?" Not exactly. It's changed again. I have to run a different program now associated to the camera than I was running before. I don't know why, but I do. I have to run a different program, and it seems to fix it. Go figure. That's all I can tell you. It's just something to make me think, or try to fix another problem. It just seems like those are the kinds of problems that pop up. It's just like, well, it's been good for a little while now. We're going to change it on you again, and here you go. Now you'll have to figure this out. That's the way it feels like. Anyway, so I didn't really discover anything huge. I just started running yet another program, and it seems to fix it. Okay. The next username is Jeff Williamson, I guess. It's spelled a little different. And it says, "I have gained so much insight through your instruction on instruments. Thank you. Question, I have a 1993 HD28 that I am working on, and the intonation is off. Could you steer me to one of your videos that shows the process of fixing it?" Well, unfortunately, Jeff, I can't exactly do that. And the reason is because I got, 1,500 videos out there, and I can't keep them all straight. And there's no real index. So a couple things you can do is if you just type, go into YouTube and you type in RSW and the word intonation, more than likely, if you type in RSW first and then intonation, more than likely you'll find a bunch of videos that will cover that topic. Because I did try to put keywords in on a lot of videos. I'm not saying they all have the keyword that you're looking for, and maybe there's a better one out there that doesn't have the keyword. But almost any of them that's... The other thing you could do is look at setup, RSW setup, and you'll find a bunch of on setting them up. And typically with the setup, I'm doing an intonation check and all that too. But having said that, intonation is probably the most important thing you can fix on an instrument. And honestly, it's fairly easy, kind of fairly easy. It really depends on the situation. On a guitar, it can be difficult because guitars often, or most often, have a fixed bridge and a fixed saddle, and you can't move it. And that's how you fix intonation. I've gotten on rants many times that you don't fix intonation at the nut. Now, I know a lot of people will argue all day long about that. But I'm going to tell you right up front, and black and white, I got no reason to lie or tell you anything wrong. When you fix it at the nut, when you fix intonation at the nut, you're making a compromise. You're not fixing it, you're compromising. And some people would say, well, you'll never get it perfect at the at the saddle. And I would have to say, you're probably right, because there is no such thing as perfect. But you'll get it as perfect as it needs to be if you do it at the saddle. All right, so again, in a nutshell, and I've covered this 1,000 times, so some of you are going to think this is boring. But in a nutshell, what you do is, you tune up on a guitar, and really on any instrument, but on a guitar, you tune up your two E strings, your top string and your bottom string, and you get them to pitch. Then you note it at the 12th fret. If it's sharp, that means the distance between the 12th fret and your saddle is too short. If it's sharp, it's short. That distance is short. If it's flat, then your saddle is too far back. Flat is far back. So that's all you got to know. And you just move it slightly until you get it right. Now, on a guitar, that's not that easy to do. I agree. Now, if you've got a mandolin or a banjo or anything that's got a movable bridge, you're home free. You just move it until you get it right. And then if you really want to make it perfect, well, then you can individually offset each string in that saddle. You can compensate the saddle forward or backward. You know, you can get really complicated with this, and you can make it just dang near perfect if you really want to. But it's all done the same way at the 12th fret, and it's just that simple. It really is that simple. It's not rocket science at all. The only other thing I would say about that, though, is when you're doing that set, you want your strings at the proper height. You know, if your strings are really high and you're setting your intonation and now you lower your strings, it's not going to be right. So you want your string height to be really close to the proper height when you're doing your intonation work. And it really boils down to that's the whole thing. It's just the 12th fret and short or sharp, you know, short is sharp, flat is too far back. And that's all there is to it. Let me think. What else could I tell you about that? I guess that's really about it. I'm trying to think of some tricks or easy ways to fix it on a guitar. I'm not necessarily saying this is the best way. I'm just telling you this is a way, and sometimes it's kind of what you got to do unless you really want to go deep. And deep is not pretty sometimes on a guitar. Picked out a saddle that's fairly large here so that I think you can see it better. This is not a very wide saddle, but anyway. So let's say Martin guitars have this problem a lot. Not all of them by any stretch, but there was a period of time, I don't know, 80s, 70s, 80s, where the Martin guitars, a lot of them, the saddles were in the wrong place. And the only way to really fix it is to move the bridge back or, you know, fill the slot, cut a new slot. You know, that's going deep. You know, and if you don't want to go deep, then here's the other way you can fix it. All right, you take, like, say, a bone saddle like this, and let's say the note is sharp, and I think that's right. Yeah, that's the problem they had a lot, is they were too sharp. Especially the bass E string was especially noticeable. So you note it at the 12th fret, and it's really sharp. So what you can do is you can take take a piece of bone and take CA glue, and it's best if you set the bone right on top of your bridge and yet glue it to the back of the saddle. You don't want to glue it down to your bridge, but you do want to glue it to the back of your saddle. Difficult to do with CA glue, so you might have to put some wax paper under there or something to make sure it doesn't get down in. You don't want to get it down in your saddle slot and glue your saddle in. And you might even want to mark it and then do it outside of your guitar. It doesn't matter how you do it as long as you just follow these guidelines. So the bottom line is you put a piece of bone on there behind the saddle, glue it to your saddle. Hopefully it's sitting right on top of your bridge so that the weight of it is held by the top of the bridge. Then you file off the whole front of your saddle here so that the string is now sitting on that new piece that you put in behind it. And then you file it appropriately however you feel like you need to file it to make it intonate properly. I've done it quite a few times. And it works great, and it sounds great. You can't really tell the difference in sound. Does it look funky? Yeah, it looks a little funky. But do you care about the looks or do you care about the sound? So I'm just telling you, these are options. You can choose to do whatever you want. Going deep on that is tough. You know, taking the whole bridge off, moving the whole bridge, filling the saddle slot and moving the saddle slot, all of that's going deep, and that's tough. So there you go. I hope that helps you with your intonation question. Probably more than you ever wanted to know about it. Rang Rog. I have encountered a few people with timing issues and was wondering if you could go into some detail about how you helped Cash recognize that he was having an issue and you helped him correct it. I'm laughing because there's quite a bit of the stories with this. I think he is sounding great and is well on his way to being a musician. Yeah. Well, thank you, Rang Drog. R-A-N-G ROG. Anyway, it started at those jams, and I was coming up and telling his grandmother or whoever, his parents, that he's got timing issues. He needs help, And so when he gets here, really, this is where most of you would say, I think you're being a little rough on him. As soon as he'd start, if he got off on his time, I'd stop him right there and say, nope, we got to do it again. You sped up there, or you slowed down, whatever, whatever the problem was, or he paused or whatever. So, there's a bunch of timing issues, guys. It's not just, timing isn't just tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. There's a lot of timing issues. It's more than just tick tock with a metronome. Metronomes are great. I'm not knocking metronomes. I'm just saying there's a lot more timing issues than you might realize, especially if you're not a musician. Well, anyway, so, every single time that he would make any mistake at all, I'd say, nope, we're done. And we're started again. Let's do it again. And we just kept doing it until we got it right. And yeah, it gets old. And I think a lot of times he'd think I was wrong. I think a lot of times he would probably think I'm telling him wrong. He'd get that weird look on his face, like, "Are you sure about that? Are you really? You think that was bad? Because I think that was okay." He had that kind of look on his face. He wasn't mean. I mean, he wasn't. He wasn't belligerent. He didn't, rebel or anything like that. He listened to me. And the fact that he listened to me is why he's where he's at today compared to where he started. Trust me, guys, at the risk of embarrassing the heck out of him, I wish I could have shown you how bad he was. I mean, because you wouldn't believe it. It's really, 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 really different. And so really, it's that perfect practice thing. Practice don't do nothing. How do I know that? Because I used to teach archery and practice archery all day long. You ain't going to get no better unless you have perfect practice. Unless you have perfect form, unless you have perfect everything about it, you aren't going to get to be the top archer out there. And the same way with music. You can't just do what you're doing and never improve it. If you want to improve, it's just you're never gonna get any better. And so the only thing I can tell you about the timing thing is that you have to be able to recognize it. And and if you're doing it on your own, it's a lot harder. You might not even recognize you got a problem. So the metronome is probably your best friend in a case like of doing it on your own. I'm trying to think of what are the other timing issues that you have to address. I mean, like changing modes is one of them, and that's the one we were working on most recently, and that is, you're going along, now you're going to pick. Well, it has to be flawless. You have to keep the same beat when you switch to that picking. You can't throw some monkey wrench in there and have some misstep. It can't work. That won't work. It has to be flawless. It has to be smooth transition. There's a speeding up and slowing down timing issue. But there's also a breaking time issue. Like you can be in time pretty much all the way through, and then somewhere in there you just break time, and you go back into time. But just breaking time, that's a timing issue. There's all kinds of timing issues. Can't hardly think of them. I know when I see them, though. Or know when I hear them. So I don't know. I don't necessarily have any particular words of wisdom on the timing thing other than the metronome is probably your best friend if you know you have problems and you're doing it on your own. Probably the metronome's about the only way you can do it. If you have a good friend that will play along with you that you think has good timing and you trust their opinion, well, then that might be another way. Okay, moving on here. Let's see. This one, Letha Chris, I'm just reading her comment. She said, "Wow, Cash, super deluxe, fantastic playing. Cash has come a long way. Jerry has put a lot of time and effort into helping Cash, and it really shows. You're practicing. Cash really shows present playing ability. Great for all involved." And then she goes on to say, we're looking forward to seeing your butt bar mounts on your trailer and also the fountain on the water project. And I think she was trying to help me out with the words there because I couldn't think of, what do you call that thing that where the butt bar mounts on there, you know? And anyway. So thank you, Aletha. I always appreciate your very positive comments. I just wanted to say thanks a lot there. And then she goes on to say she loves Oliver, the Clydesdale horse. If you don't know anything about Oliver, if you're new to the channel and stuff, my son has a channel also. His farm is right next door to mine, and he raises horses. We have horses here too, but that's his business. He raises horses as a business. He trains them, sells them, all that type of thing. And Clyde and Oliver was a horse that was very near death, and my son bought him. Well, he was trying to buy him at the auction, and the auction, they no-saled him at the auction with a very high price. And then my son tracked him down and found the horse a week or two later, and the horse was very near death. I mean, very near death. So anyway, it's quite a story. You can look at that up on my son's channel. There is a link to Oliver in the description of this video today, so be sure to check it out if you're not familiar with Oliver. Moving on, let's see, Clyde Lewis. I think I've got a little demonstration on this one. Clyde is saying, Jerry, thanks for the great video. So sorry to hear about the duckling. I had a duckling pass away this week. But so glad to hear Cash and his progress with his song. His picking is really advancing and just jaw-dropping. We kind of miss hearing Sue on the lawnmower out there. Yeah, Sue's in Florida, so generally she's riding past the window here, either with the lawnmower or the four-wheeler or tractor or something, bobcat even. She really doesn't do a whole lot that doesn't involve burning fuel, gasoline or fuel. Pretty much everything. You've never seen a person use more gas and fuel. If you saw my gas bills, you wouldn't believe it. It's unbelievable. Clyde goes on to say, he's got his question here. It says, I was wondering if you built the cabinets or bookcases in your house. When you're building a bookcase, what's the best way to make sure that the shelving can support the weight of the books, etc.? Is solid wood better or stronger for shelving, or would plywood be a better choice? The answer is yes. I think you can use anything you want to. My preference, and everybody's got an opinion and everybody's got a preference. And there's other ways you could support it too, by the way. But my preference, being a woodworker, is to use a facing on your shelf. In other words, you can put your shelf up there like that, and that would look fine and be okay. But if you really want to dress your shelf up and make it a lot stronger at the same time and make it prettier and more beautiful, then you put a face on it like that. And the fact that this is wider, it makes it look like the shelf is thicker, which always looks nice whenever your shelf is a little thicker. And then you can also put a routing decorative trim on that, and anything you do to stiffen that up. And then of course you glue this. I would glue it to this because the glue is going to be stronger overall than just a few nails. If you want to nail it also, you could do that, but I would definitely glue it with Titebond, and you can use Titebond 1, 2, or 3. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, that's the way I would do it, Clyde. And it wouldn't matter whether it was plywood or solid wood. As long as you put that face on there, you're going to be a lot stronger. Shelves over time, especially with something heavy like books, are going to bow. Even with that face, they might bow a little bit, but you'll reduce your bowing a lot. Partly because of the fact that you got different grain structures going different directions, and it's glued, so therefore it makes it much stronger. So that's my recommendation, Clyde, is to put a face on the front of your shelf. Um, okay, we've got another one here, and I don't recall seeing this one before. Jerry Boyle 92 is, how about a fountain? And I think you made brackets. Oh, he was trying. He was coming up with the words for what I was trying. I couldn't think of the words yesterday in my video. I said something that sprays water in the air, and he goes, "How about a fountain?" I think he's helped me out with the word there. And he said brackets for your butt bar on your trailer. Again, him and Alicia both are trying to help me out, and I appreciate that. So yeah, thank you. I tell you, sometimes words are the hardest thing for me. It goes back to the name thing. What you call something, like a title of a song, I can't think of song titles for nothing. And I can't think of people's names for nothing. I mean, like even yesterday, I forgot my own granddaughter's name. I don't forget it. I know it. I just can't call it up at that moment. It's a curse. I'm telling you. Like I've told 1,000 times, I've said that the hardest thing I do on stage is introducing my band. That's the hardest thing I do, because I'll look right at them and can't say their dang name. It's so embarrassing. It's terrible. And of course I know their name. I just can't say it. I don't know why. I just can't. Jerry, in a video, could you show use of the process you use in welding aluminum? This is from Mike Saba 3510. Yes, Mike, and you are psychic, because believe it or not, 10 minutes before we went live today, I was working on that video. So there will be a video coming out yet today on how I learned to weld aluminum. And this is a learning video for me. I'm not trying to show it like I'm some sort of expert, but on the fact that I could do it pretty much the very first time I ever tried, should give encouragement to a lot of people to try it, I think. And so anyway, that video will come out today yet, Mike, and I'm hoping roughly by noon. The next one, we're still on questions from yesterday, so we got to get going here because we're running long. And it's not because I'm long-winded or anything. Jacoppe001, and that's Jakoppe 001. Copy. It's Jack Copy, well, anyway, it's Jim Copy. He told me to pronounce his name like Copy, C-O-P-Y, and even though it's spelled K-O-P-P-E. But anyway, and I'll remember that right now, Jim, but tomorrow will I remember it? Sorry about that. But anyway, I am practicing Irish D high whistle, singing, and ukulele. I just started the instrument a few months ago. I have learned to practice for an hour and a half, an hour to 45 minutes, and then take a break. I do better that way than continuous practice. Is that in line with your experience? Well, yeah, I think there's... another thing I think is good is try to quit on a high note. Don't quit because you're having trouble. Do something that try to quit on a high note so that it leaves a positive experience in your mind. Same way when I'm teaching cash. I don't want to say, well, the time's up and the lesson's over, when we're having problems. I want us to get past that problem and be able to give him some praise and say, hey, you did really good. You fixed that problem. You did good. And then I want to give him encouragement to go back and work on these things here and refine these few things. And so anyway, that's probably my best suggestion, Jim, is to try to stop on a high note in addition to what you're saying. Because I think what you're saying is good too. You don't want to go so long that you get tired and you're actually going downhill. In fact, you might even want to do it shorter as long as you're stopping on a high note, on a good point. So, and then I think we have one more question here. Spike Moto 914. Hi, Jerry. You mentioned that you do all your own repair work. Well, I'm the same way, although I know my limitations. Like I don't. Here's a question. I am repairing a 20-year-old single handle kitchen faucet. The Allen screw on the single handle will not come out. To make matters worse, I stripped the head on the screw. I already tried a tool called a speed out extractor and no luck. This set screw is stuck. Do you have any suggestions in getting it out? Yeah, I do. I think the obvious elephant in the room here is that it might just be better just to replace the whole thing because they're cheap these days. Yeah, well, relatively cheap. Nothing's cheap if you can't afford it. You know what I'm saying? So, but I mean, in general terms, it might be better just to replace the whole faucet. Okay, we said that. The elephant's out of the room. Now, how to fix this? I'm a fixer too, so I typically fix stuff rather than replace it. So, there's 2 or 3 things. A lot of people are going to frown on this first one. If it's all metal, then you might want to take a propane torch and heat it up real good. Now, don't heat it to the point where you're discoloring it or burning it or anything like that, but you might want to heat it up pretty good with a propane torch. And if it's all metal, more than likely it can take more heat than you think. So you can heat it up pretty good. A lot of times just that heating process will break the bond of that screw because the metals will expand and contract at different rates, and that'll help. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is you'll have to make a small investment, but I would get you some left-handed drill bits. They're drill bits that drill when you turn your drill backwards. In other words, you got your drill in reverse, and yet these will drill down. And the reason you want the left-handed ones is that if you do it at a slow RPM, often the drill bit will catch the screw and back the screw out itself. But you wouldn't probably want to do that until you've heated it. You want to heat it first and then take your left-handed drill bit and it will often unscrew the screw for you. And worst case scenario is if you use a small enough drill bit, hopefully you can just drill down through there and then maybe make your easy out, take it out. And if you're reasonably careful, even if you scratch the threads a little bit, more than likely you're not going to hurt your threads that much. As long as you don't use a real large drill, try to use a drill that's about the diameter of the inner threads, if you will, the inside of the threads, or a little bit smaller than that if you can. Of course, you have to use it big enough that you don't break your drill bit off. So anyway, left-handed drill bits are amazing how well they'll remove screws and things. I've done it quite a few times with them. So that's my best suggestion on that. Heat it up and use a left-handed drill bit and see how it goes. And then if worse comes worse, then you'll have to try an extractor. And if that don't work, then you got to replace the whole thing. Good luck to you. All right, moving up here. Before we get into today's questions, I noticed David Lane had made a super chat. Thank you so very much, David Lane. And Gary Boer, my buddy there, the good, wonderful bluegrass musician and his family band. He made a very nice contribution also. So thank you very kindly for those contributions. I really do appreciate it. Moving from the top, going down here, let me see if I can find question marks. The first one is James Waddell, or Waddell, is do you use glue or acetone to fix binding around pick guards? Acetone. If it's a plastic binding coming loose from a plastic pick guard, I would probably use glue. I would probably use an acetate-based glue. Can't think of the name of it. Let me find it. First of all, let me just say, model airplane glue. Now, I'm talking about the wooden model airplane glue. Nowadays, they use CA glue, but the old model airplane glue contains the same stuff as this, and that will work also. But this is called Beacon 527. This is available at Walmart. This will melt your plastics and stick them together, just like if you used acetone, you could do that. But I don't like acetone that much. I don't think it sticks as good as this does. The trick to this is, clean your old glue off real good. Get 2 good plastic surfaces meeting up and get them where they meet up tight. And then the other trick is, you get the glue on both surfaces. Let it set for 10, 15 seconds before you put them together, because that lets the glue start melting the plastic. Then push them together, and then make sure you hold them together for, 30 minutes or so. Some way to clamp it. Sometimes it's rubber bands, sometimes it's clamps, sometimes it's push it up against the wall and push something against it. I mean, whatever it takes, find a way to clamp it. And as long as you can leave it clamped for a while, this stuff works wonders on plastic. Okay, next question. Davy Brown says, good morning, Jerry. How did Sue take the news about the baby duck? She didn't say too much. She said, oh, bummer, she just texted me back on that. So, yeah, she's sad about it, I'm sure, but stuff happens, I don't want to sound hard-nosed or cold or something, but, I've lived on a farm, or a farm life, I should say, not necessarily on a farm, but a farm life my whole life. And we've always had lots of animals. And the cold hard facts are they die. You kind of get used to it. You don't like it, but you kind of get used to it. So, and she's kind of the same way. She's kind of used to it. Doesn't want it to happen, but it happens. The Spoken Song is the next username. It says, Hi, Bruce in Ohio. Could you tell me something about the instrument that is hanging up behind you? Is that the mandolin that we see in your opening show? Show opening. I doubt it. I don't know. I don't know which one you see in the opening. This mandolin is, I've told the story so many times, I don't want to have to tell it again, but I've told the story on this a lot. This is my second mandolin that I ever built. I keep it here in the shop. It's a good sounding mandolin. It's a great playing mandolin. This is a redwood top, and this is the top that I was in the hardware store on my lunch hour, and I found this board laying under a stack of 2x4s, and the manager and he had a boy help me, and we unstacked that whole stack of 2x4s, got the board out, and I took it up to the cash register, and I said, all right, now that we did all that work and took all that time, how much are you going to charge me for this redwood board? And he goes, and I was expecting $20 or more, and he says, $1.50. So the top on this is made out of a piece of redwood that cost $1.50, and it's really a great sounding mandolin. I really like this mandolin. It's probably not in tune. I haven't checked it. I'm having a Charlie horse here in my leg. Sorry. Fingers are stiff. But anyway, it's a great little mandolin. We need to get on to the next questions or so. Oh, never mind. I thought they went away, but I forgot I'm in this set of questions now. Whew, I thought I lost something there. The Spoken Song is the username. That's the one we just did. I tell you, I'm a terrible reader. The next one, let's see, move down quite a ways. Larry A., why not put a ruler in the pond so you can see every day exactly how much the water has raised? Well, I don't know, could do that, Larry, but it doesn't really matter. I'm watching for a particular level. When I get it up to that particular level, I'll I'll put the pipe in. I don't even know where I want it to go. I'm just going to kind of wait and sit back and watch it and see what level it gets to and go, yeah, that looks good. That's pretty much how I'm doing it. There's really no black and white way to have to do it on this. David Tharp, what's your opinion about using polyurethane as an acoustic finish? Can you hear the difference? Well, David Tharp, there's two answers on this. The first truthful answer is, I'd say 90 out of 100 people would not hear any difference at all. 9 out of 10 people would not hear a difference. There's a few rare people like my brother who probably would hear a difference, because there's some people that have such perfect hearing, it's just unbelievable. So the truth is, I doubt most people would hear a difference. But that's the one answer. Now, the other answer is, and this is more by the book, typically you want a harder, flexible is a hard word to define. You typically don't want a rubberized type finish or a real flexible finish. All finishes need to be somewhat flexible, but my point is, you want a finish that gets hard and kind of crisp and clear, and that's what gives you that better vibration. Dumb analogy, but it's like laying a blanket over something. It kind of mutes it. So it's soft. You don't want something soft soft on there. You want it something that adheres to it and is firm and it's tight. So I don't think polyurethane is as good a finish as a hard lacquer or a shellac. Things that get hard. That's oil varnish. Those are your better choices, I think. But could you use polyurethane? Yes. Does it sound okay? Yes. So that's the other side of the answer. There's a lot of people that will argue either way on both of those points. That they'll say, no, you cannot use polyurethane. That's the dumbest thing you've ever thought. There's people like that. And I'm kind of in the middle on it, because I do know that in a blind test, very few people will hear the difference. Okay, moving on. Paul Akers, will CA glue be too glossy on a non-glossy finish for guitar top crack? Not really. And if it is, if you used very, you might have to use like a toothpick or something and put some sandpaper and sand it. But if you do need to, you can buff it. You can take a little bit of like 1200 sandpaper and it'll dull it right down. So either way, I think you can make it work. That's a tough one, Paul, because there's so many variables. But I think you can make it work. James Freestad saying, Cash's voice reminds me of Skeeter Davis. Have him try doing the End of the World. I think he that would be cool. I'll try to remember that. I'll look into that. But I don't, it's a big operative word. Try to remember is the hard part. Let's see. Travis the Fixer says, good morning. Have you ever thought of doing an infomercial on your mandolin training? Yeah, I have. It's a good idea, I think, but I haven't done it. I don't know. I probably said too much already about that. Fred Martin, you need to reread Gary Smyth's first comment of today, as there is a funny ending in the second sentence that you missed. Yeah, I'm a terrible reader. Okay, Gary Smyth. Let me go back up there. Oh, it's way up at the top. See, on my screen, my problem is, on my screen, that comment specifically is messed up. I don't know why, but there's another sentence comes into it and it's all jumbled. I can't hardly make it out. I don't know why, but that's the only one that's like that. I do, maybe I do see the end, maybe. But I learned a new way to stop it. It's called a wall. Oh well. Oh well, new propellers. So he was talking about his drone. Gary Smythe was talking about his drone. He's talking about the fact that I've jinxed his drone. He's said that before. That ever since I started talking about it or whatever, his doesn't work anymore. Well, anyway, he says, but I did learn a new way to stop it. It's called a wall. That's funny. So thank you for telling me to go back up there. Yeah, that comment's all jumbled up, though. I don't know why. And that's why I quit reading it, because I couldn't make it out. All right, moving down. Let's see. Fred Martin. Oh, Fred Martin was the one that said to reread. Okay. All right. Rooster Run Workshop. Jerry, do you know a way to keep western red cedar from turning gray when outside in the weather? No, I do not. I'm not an expert on that. I do know there are UV type coatings and things that you might want to look into, though. I don't know, though. I'm no expert on that at all, but I know there are certain kinds of finishes and things that are supposed to be more resistant to the UV rays and things. So that's probably the avenue you want to look into, and probably Google it or something like that. Jeff, in fact, you might even try that AI, Chat GPT. It might be able to answer that question for you. Let's see. Moving down here, do we have any more? I think there might be one more at the bottom. DE says, hi, Jerry. Since you pulled your mandolin down, could you play us a song? Well, you are a glutton for punishment. I don't know what I'll play. I'm not a very good picker. I mostly do vocal type songs. And with my fingers this stiff right now, I don't know that I could pick very plainly. That's in the key of F. About the only instrumental I know in the key of F. That was called Right, Right On. And my version of it isn't even close to Bill's version of it. Bill Monroe wrote that, I think. I just sort of make it sound similar. That's about all I do with that. That's all I ever do when I'm picking something. I never make it sound exactly right. It's just not the way I can play. Unfaithful one, you'll have to suffer. You're doomed to go through life alone, for no one else will ever trust you. They'll know your heart is made of stone. I still recall those happy years, dear. Our love was fresh as flowers of spring. But now you left me for a stranger. You lost the right to wear my ring. Unfaithful one, you'll have to suffer. You're doomed to go through life alone, for no one else will ever trust you. They'll know your heart is made of stone. So blue was I the day you left me. My heart was sad and lonely too.
My place was taken by a stranger. You traded an old love for a new. Unfaithful one, you'll have to suffer. You're doomed to go through life alone, for no one else will ever trust you. They'll know your heart is made of stone.
That's all I got. Well, thanks for asking anyway. Ranjarog, Ranjarog again. What kind of wood are you planning to make the water wheel from? Good question, and I wish I had a good answer. Actually, believe it or not, I think I'm going to cop out on that. I think I'm actually thinking I'm going to use a metal wire spoke wheel. It's a large old, antique metal wheel, and I think I'm going to put wooden buckets all the way around it. So I think I'm going to make the buckets and attach them to this wire spoked wheel. See, I think it's going to be kind of cool because I'm planning to use, in my vision, in my brain, I've got 3 materials I want to use on this construction. One would be the old iron. I think that's going to look kind of cool. And the other is the wood, and the other is stone. I want to build some sort of a stone wall and maybe stone foundation up so high on the little building, and so I want to mix those 3 things. I want the stone, the steel, and the wood. It's my vision I have in my brain, and I don't know if that's going to work out yet or not. The other reason I want to use the steel wheel is because I already have an axle that will fit on that wheel, and it would be perfect for then to run inside the building with that axle, and if I want to later, then convert it to power. So it'll be really easy to make that work. And so that's why I'm thinking of going that route, to be, more than just a solid wood wheel. Anyway, it's a vision. Whether my vision works out or not, I don't know. A bunch of things scrolled up there. So let me look real quick. Oh, that was very nice of you. It says, J.O. Elias says, hooray, don't get to hear you play enough. Thanks. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. David Tharp. Jerry, did you know that when I can't think of the word, I say I can't think of the English word for that? That way they think I'm multilingual instead of just an idiot. Maybe I'll have to say, well, I can't think of the Japanese word for that, but that's funny. Yeah, that's a good way to maybe approach it, because I had that all the time. And don't think it's an old age thing. I'm not lying to you. I've had this my whole life. It's been ever since I was a kid. I can look straight at you and can't say your name. It's just terrible, and I've been that way my whole life. I don't know. It's not a recent development, unlike the arthritis, which is more recent. The last question, and then I think we're going to call this good, is Ranjarog again says, if someone brought their guitar and stayed at the rental retreat, would you consider supervising them attempting a setup? Yeah, I would do that. I don't mind helping somebody and maybe spending a little time helping you learn something or whatever. I'm at a point where I know it. You might think it sounds wimpy or whatever. I'm at a point where I don't need to be doing that with these hands anymore. I'm seriously telling you, even right at this moment, they ache. They ache. All the joints are aching. And it's just gotten to the point where that extra tension of just trying to do stuff, I just can't do it anymore. I just can't. And I did it as long as I could do it. And then I just said, I can't do this anymore. And anyway, that's where we're at. So I don't need anybody feeling sorry for me. It's just that's where we're at. And so, but as far as supervising someone else, if you really wanted to try to do that, I'd be okay with that. And I could, and I'm sure I can do a little bit here and a little bit there to show you and point you in the right direction, but I can't do much of the work. And I know you're going to see me doing all kinds of work around here. It's different kinds of work, though. And I think the setup on instruments is much more intense than most people think. Your hands are just tight the whole time, and you're twisting this and you're pulling this, and it's just intense on your hands, much more than you might think. That's going to be the last word for today. Thank you all for being so nice to me. We got 138 viewers now. We were up in the 140s for a little while there, I think. So thank you very kindly. We will see you on the next video, and like I said, I will be getting that welding video out hopefully within the next few hours. We'll see how that goes, and I might put out another video over the weekend, but I'm not going to guarantee that, but we'll see. Thank you.